This episode is brought to you by LifeLock. It's Cybersecurity Awareness Month, and LifeLock has tips to protect your identity. Use strong passwords, set up multi-factor authentication, report phishing, and update the software on your devices. And for comprehensive identity protection, let LifeLock alert you to suspicious uses of your personal information. LifeLock also fixes identity theft, guaranteed or your money back. Stay smart, safe, and protected with a 30-day free trial at lifelock.com/podcast. Terms apply.
Optimism isn't sunshine and rainbows. It's fixing things, changing the way we fix things. It's running the world on smarter energy. Because if optimism never stops, then change can't either. GE Vernova, the energy of change.
Welcome to episode 70. 70. Wow. More than enough time to know better, I think. Welcome to episode 70 of the High Volume Hiring Podcast. I am one of your co-hosts, Stephen Rothberg with College Recruiter. No, I have not had any intoxicants today. This is just me. Jeanette, great to see you again.
Great to be here. Everyone, I'm Jeanette Leeds. I'm an HR tech advisor and entrepreneur, and we are here today with Kat, who is the CEO and founder of 3 Ears Media. Welcome, Kat. We're so happy to have you here.
Thank you for having me. I feel like we've already had such a good pre-call that the audience is about to be pleasantly surprised by all of our fun insights. They'll at least laugh.
That is the goal. High Volume Hiring Podcast, all about laughter.
Because if there's one thing that says humor, it's high volume hiring.
It is.
If you don't have a sense of humor, you're not in high volume hiring anymore.
It's true. Because if you try and do anything at scale, when something goes wrong, we all know, like, it goes wrong at scale, right? It's not like, oh, just one hire. So in my experience, if you can, minimize the damage. So with that, today, we are talking about how to make AI-assisted hiring systems more human. I was going to say humane, which actually is one and the same in many ways. So, Kat, maybe just let's back up a minute. Cause I was like, okay, quick background on you in case our listeners don't know, what you do, what 3 Ears Media is.
Yeah, well, I think it even makes sense to go back a session before 3 Years Media. So if you looked at my resume, you'd probably be confused, but it kind of all added up to the expertise that I have today. Because I have been a CMO of HR technology companies. I have been a managing editor of a blog about recruiting where all I did was talk to smart people and write about it, where I met both of you. Yeah. And then I actually got the itch and I went and did it, right? I went to an employer branding team and I worked on employer brand and high volume hiring for some of the largest companies in the world. And after all of that, I took a step aside and decided to start 3 Ears Media because I realized there was this real gap in what we say and how we ask. And that's one of the few variables that we can actually control in the world of hiring, whether it's high volume or anything else. And I became a job post writing expert. I spent the last 5 years researching, writing. I think I've written more job posts than anyone, and I feel really confident saying that at this point.
I'm sorry.
I know, right? But I love it. I love it because it's anthropology at its best. And that experience has really lent itself to this next chapter of my business and my life where I'm thinking about how to take all this machinery and make it human. Because for so long, job postings, as much as we wanted to say that they weren't automated, they were, because all we did was copy and paste what everyone else was doing. And that's all AI can do right now, too. Yeah. So where I'm stepping in at this point is helping my customers look at what they're saying, automated or not, and make it more human. And like you said, more humane, because ultimately that's the consequence, is that you get to feel like a human after you read this, even if it's a batched automation.
Oh, that is really interesting. So I saw you speak, I think it was 2018, 2019, in Denver at the JobGate conference, which is a conference for basically job board people. But we did have fun. Despite the audience. So
job board people, fun, don't come up. Off topic, but back.
There was alcohol involved.
The
doesn't
have to be, but
I bet for the viewers who don't know you, some of them are like 3 Ears Media, and I remember you talked about that tell that story because it is funny, and then I have a real question for you.
Well, so I picked the name 3 Years Media. The story that I used to tell is because I wanted to listen more, and 3 years are better than 2. But the real story is that I started my company in a bad work relationship, and in 2 weeks I pulled together every single thing I needed to launch a company. And I needed a name, and no joke, I literally did a spin in my chair, and I stopped and I looked at my dogs. And so my dogs, the little one she's a Boston Terrier, so she has 2 ears that stand straight up. And then I have a lab that has one big ear, and the two of them go everywhere together, and they have 3 ears. And so I ended up with 3 Years Media.
That is awesome. So, all right, the real question. I love how you also you just mentioned a minute ago that writing job postings has sort of always been automated, right? Like at College Recruiter, we would tell employers if they're posting a job and it's some position they haven't hired for before, it's like, go on our site, go to Indeed, whatever, find a job posting and use that as your first draft. Because if you go to an Indeed and you run a search, that job comes up at the top of the search listings, which means it's probably well written for purposes of search. It's going to come up high in the search results. And then you can kind of edit that. I love what you said about how AI is essentially doing the same thing. If employers are either doing the copy and paste or using something like ChatGPT, what are they missing? Whether it's 3 years or somebody in their marketing department or recruitment branding, what should they be doing that's different than that?
They're not capturing the truth. That's the problem. So Indeed, wherever you go and find that first example, that's true for them, right? That's the Google version of what is the truth of that role. But as all of us know, because we've all held roles inside of corporations before, is that job titles are not parallel. So I could be a director of marketing at one company and then go to another company, and that role could be built on entirely different skills, attributes, and have different goals altogether. And so when we copy and paste, we copy someone else's truth. And there's a very high chance that you are going to hire the wrong person. You're going to hire the right person for their job, but not for your own. And really what the person needs to be able to do is ask the right questions to understand what the truth is.
I love that. Okay. So the easy follow-up question is like, what are those right questions?
Yeah.
Like, how do we think about that?
So there's a little bit of infrastructure to this. And this is actually what I'm training teams on how to do now, because it gives you a tool set in the world of AI to be able to know the questions to ask. So the first thing I would tell you is that you don't ask for lists. Never ask for a list, because if you ask for one, you'll always get one. Always, right? So I don't ask, what are you looking for? I ask, walk me through a day in the life. They wake up, put their pants on, now what? Because what happens next is you walk me through exactly what they're going to do, and I can work backwards into the requirements from that. Hiring managers can't. They know what they know, and they're going to give you the copy and paste list. The second big technique that I would tell you just off of the gate is questions that create contrast. So we know that managers, let me asterisk that, everyone is full of bias, right? We all have our bias of what we think is the best, especially if you've run a company for a long time, right? You think you know what you want.
Yeah.
And so a great recruiter, recruitment marketer, whoever is getting this intel, they know how to ask the question that creates contrast so that you can say it in plain English. Let me give an example. The manager who's like, I must have a college degree. Okay. So what did they learn during that degree that they couldn't have learned anywhere else?
I love this.
What they say next is what you should actually be writing down, because that plain human language is what a candidate connect with and can say yes or no to.
That's really interesting, because I haven't heard it put that way. I've heard it more if you run into a manager who says that they need a college degree, whatever, right away that should be suspect, and you should be looking for equivalent experience. And then, of course, there are the exceptions where degree literally is required sometimes. Yeah. Nursing, engineering,
accountant, lawyer.
Whatever. Your approach is different, because they may come back and say, I do need an engineering degree because they're going to be a mechanical engineer and they need to be licensed.
Hey, this is William Tincup. Listen, we did a series for iSolved called Heroes of HR, where we talk to HR practitioners. And these are just your run-of-the-mill, everyday, slogging it out, 300 employees in Cedar Rapids. HR pros. Mostly it's centered around iSolved and what they do with iSolved, but also they talk a lot about kind of the day-to-day rigor of HR. If you're curious about that, search for Heroes of HR wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you.
On the other hand, if they're going to be selling used cars, do they actually I want them to have a bachelor's degree because I want them to have demonstrated that they're hard workers. So I think what you're saying is focus on the hard worker part. That's valid.
Bingo.
And give context. All right.
Yeah.
So when I say the degree is required, tell them why. All right. So a lifeguard certification is required. That's just an inside joke. Okay. So a lifeguard certification is required because that's where you learn how to save people's lives in real time. And if you say that instead of saying lifesaver, like lifeguard certificate, I think for the candidate, that's the human part where they can realize this is really important. Okay, I won't apply. Versus somebody who just sees a miscellaneous college degree. My favorite is the director of marketing. Okay, a CMO who must have a college degree. And I'm like, okay, you need to stop because I got a marketing degree and I learned how to make billboards and I'm not that old, right?
Yeah. Right.
I don't make billboards now, and I highly doubt, unless you're at a Fortune 100, that you're working on billboards at this moment.
And even then,
even then.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it goes to the whole, we're hearing everyone talk about skills, right? Skills-based hiring. And so there's the essence of that, of the why, like, what do you need to be able to do right now? And I'm curious, what's your take on skills-based hiring?
I struggle. Okay.
Yeah.
So I want to provide some context on this because I'm not just like bashing skills-based hiring for fun. Okay. A few years ago, I was called by one of the leading skills-based hiring organizations, and they tried to pay me to write their skills database. And this is the part of the technology that nobody understands. Okay. So skills-based hiring, the AI is built off of a database of keyword means this, and somebody wrote it. All right. Yep. That is a source of bias in itself because it means that you have decided that that word means this universally to everyone. And there is no universal language to skills. That's why I have a fundamental issue with skills-based hiring. I don't actually think it helps anyone unless it is a very, I want to say this in the correct terms because I know people, it's not low skill, but there's low background in order for them to be successful in the role. For the people who say no experience required, skills-based hiring might be really helpful, but everything outside of that, I have a really hard time believing that can be helpful. It's helpful to automate things, but it's not helpful for hiring the right person. And that just doesn't feel right to me.
The when I first heard the phrase skills-based hiring probably a few years ago, it was like conceptually, it's like, oh, I love that because that's getting rid of like some of these artificial requirements, like the bachelor's degree to sell cars, right? On the other hand, it kind of begs the question, how do we know what skills are actually important?
Right.
So I had some conversations with some TA people who I was a supporter of it. They were a supporter of it. And then I had kind of like a devil's advocate conversation. It was great because they also were struggling with it too. It's like, can you look to the best employees in your company and define objectively what skills they have versus what skills the poorly performing employees don't have? And they couldn't. It's all super subjective. It came to like, well, they learn quickly. Well, how do you measure that? And who amongst us think I'm a slow learner? I mean, there aren't that many like that. We all can probably recognize some of our weaknesses. I've been told I have some. I don't know if I do, but if the hiring manager doesn't know what skills translate into productivity, how can they pass that on to you to write the job posting, the recruiter to do the recruiting? So that's kind of where I feel it breaks down. On the other hand, like Jeanette's got a ton of experience with like hourly hiring, right? If you're hiring somebody in a warehouse and they need to move 50-pound boxes, that is a skill, right? You can measure that.
Yep, exactly.
So it kind of sounds, Kat, sorry for dragging this on or like talking. It kind of sounds like you're not saying don't use skills-based hiring, but just you have to be careful. You have to like understand its limitations. Is that fair?
You nailed it. I think the biggest issue with AI right now is that we can, but we're not asking, should we? Is it actually getting us a better outcome? What are the metrics? The thing that I keep emphasizing with people is it's about results, not speed.
Yeah.
Results, not speed. Faster was never the problem. Genuinely, when you peel back the layers, speed is very rarely the actual problem. It is poor planning. It is working backwards into systems that work. It is creating tests outside of your high volume hiring season where you practice and make sure that all the systems work, right? And I think even if we peel back all the layers, I want to see a world where we are looking at experiences, not skills, because experiences are universal. Have you worked in an environment with 50 or more people where you hired 4 new people every year and did a minimum of da, da, da? And then at the end of that, a human can say yes or no. A hiring manager can say yes or no. And we've removed all the bias when they go, well, I don't think they're a strong analytical thinker. We wrote out the experiences. They have the experiences. Interview them according to the experiences. Could they do this now? That is equitable hiring. And you can do it fast.
Yes. I love it. It's so, I haven't heard anyone talking about it in that way. And I love that. I mean, that just like pings and resonates so much, right? It's like, you're getting really specific. You're almost defining, like you're defining specifically the experiences in a way that, again, I'm not hearing people think about, but you get to the essence of like, we always, the fear is, right, you hire the wrong person and you're doing it in high volume, you do it at scale like that. And that's a big problem, right?
That made my insides kind of like, ooh.
I just hired 50 of the wrong profile person. Like, oh my God, because I didn't get to that essence. Like,
yes, it's the yes or no.
yeah.
And to me, I think it's crazy because we have so many of these like DEI initiatives, but what my research has shown is this is actually creating the outcome that everyone says they want when they say they want inclusive hiring, because we're removing the psychological barriers, right? Because the psychological barrier is that there are so many things that can happen to us based on who we are that tell us, I shouldn't do this. I shouldn't even try, right? And in high volume, that's where you see the problem at scale. Because, for example, systematically, okay, so if we have 7 or fewer bullets, we see more female applicants. That data has been replicated over and over again, right? But I have all of these people who say, okay, well then I want equitable hiring. Okay, then why are there 29 bullets on this posting where you just told me no experience required, right? Yeah. And another one of the big psychological barriers is literally people reading something and not understanding. And so when we get to experiences, it's yes or no. It is a yes or no. Yeah. And I would give that advice to anyone watching this. If you read a bullet on your job posting and you can't say a clear yes or no, if there are blurred lines, you didn't reach the level of clarity you need to get the right person to apply.
I love that. It's such great advice.
Thank you.
Awesome. Well, Kat, thank you. Jeanette, as always. Also, thank you to our sponsors at Itavu, one of the world's best job distribution companies. I suspect that more than 1 or 2 of the postings that Kat's company has helped to write have probably been distributed by Itavu. From the ATS to the job board, look them up. Kat, thank you so much. And as always, just a real pleasure to talk and learn from you.
Ditto. Great to see you both.
Cheers.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.